it needs sugar. You got to have it. And so eventually, your kidneys are going to get backed up. Your liver is going to get backed up. You're going to have 0 bowel movements, maybe 1 a week, and start reading all these Reddit pages as to how other people are sustaining this. And then you find out that Paul Saladino now calls himself Paul Saladino MD, not Carnivore MD. Why? Because it's not sustainable.
All right, guys. Isaac is back. Man, we went viral on that first one.
I guess so. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A few of the clips, man.
A few of them.
The flat earth one. There was a couple others.
Yeah.
But we got some new topics today, so let's get into it. I don't even think you described your story on the first one. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm very passionate about holistic health and spirituality specifically because my mom had passed away when I was 12 years old. And I actually had a dream about this about a year before it happened, about it happening. And it's kind of like a spiritual preparation in essence, right? And I'm told that she's going to be healthy. I'm told that she had been healed of breast cancer is what it was by Western medicine. And here I am 12 years old thinking, oh, my mom's going to be healthy again. I'm going to have my mom for the rest of my life. And 3 times cancer comes back. Final time that it comes back, it travels through her brain. She passes away at 12. And that was just the genesis for me realizing that Western medicine didn't fit with me and my standards.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be around my family that I love and friends that I love and care about. And I wanted to find a way to just have this be sustainable in that essence, right? And so obviously this wasn't sustainable. Obviously this is my mother who raised me. And so having that taken from me at such a young age was just really a foundational stamp on my life for me to want to find out how to preserve life and preserve health,
right?
Essentially. Number one, health. And then spiritually, I realized very quickly that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And my family's very spiritual as well. Grew up in a Christian home and had a lot of those Christian morals taught to me growing up. But there was things about Christianity itself that didn't make sense to me as to why, certain people were told that they weren't going to go to heaven, but we were, and things like that. And so I'm a very curious mind as well. And so I decided to seek these things out when it came to sustaining life and spirituality. And that rooted from my upbringing, rooted from losing my mom young, but also rooted from a lot of spiritual oppression as well, being forced to believe something that I didn't necessarily choose to believe. And so moving on from there, that was the genesis of health and spirituality for me.
Got it. So at 12 years old, is that when you started exploring veganism?
No, definitely not. At 12 years old, I was still exploring McDonald's, Burger King, all the fast food in the world. I grew up and lived on the standard American diet till I was about 25.
Wow.
I thought that I could just always exercise off anything bad that I was doing, anything degenerative that I was doing, whether it was drinking, smoking, eating, whatever. I always thought I could exercise it off, right? And then slowly, eventually, my hormones caught up to me. My glands were taxed, and I was starting to just have very, very, very low energy, right? Because I'm living off of processed, lifeless foods, and we are living beings, and we need living foods. And so at 25 was really when I started to turn my life around and my spirituality around, because I found myself with a lot of money. I had just made a lot of money in the entrepreneurial and network marketing world, but I was very unhappy, number one. So spiritually, just broke.
Yeah.
I was financially doing well, but spiritually very broke. And then physically broke as well, because I didn't have the energy to sustain my type of lifestyle that I wanted to sustain anymore. So that was at 25, and 25 was when that whole spiritual journey began. That led to me studying Christianity in depth, studying the Bible in Hebrew context in the first half of the Bible, the Torah. Moved to Puerto Rico to study the Hebrew context of the Bible.
Wow.
That's where I transitioned into being kosher. And then after that, I started studying the Essenes of the Bible. Anyone who studies the Torah and Hebrew context, or the Hebrew roots movement, they'll come across this story of the Essenes. And the Essenes were very clearly vegetarians, and that's where I found vegetarianism actually inside of the Bible. So it led from standard American diet to kosher because of studying Hebrew context, and then the Essenes, and I found vegetarianism with the Essenes. And the Essenes were in alignment with the story of the Daniel fast in the Bible, where Daniel fasted from meat and animal products and lived off of only fruits and vegetables for 40 days, was interpreting dreams for Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm just seeing all these people live a very thriving life on fruits and vegetables. And so I picked up clues, and, I like to model Bruce in this aspect and, take all these things that I like and just discard the rest of what I don't like, right?
A lot of people seem to quit veganism. There's a lot of carnivores right now. That's a big movement on social media. Why do you think that is?
Well, the thing is people are having success within the carnivore movement and within the keto movement because what they're really giving up is processed foods. It's the standard American diet that they're giving up. It's the seed oils. It's the highly processed foods. It's the sugars. It's the Beyond Burgers. It's the chips. It's the Takis. It's the Snickers. It's the sodas. It's the fast food. It's all of these things. It's these things that are dead, lifeless foods that are not adding any value to the human. So when you remove the problem in the first place, okay, this is what Hippocrates said. Hippocrates, before he ever healed someone, which, by the way, in Western medicine, you have to take the Hippocratic Oath. Before Hippocrates ever healed someone, he'd ask them to give up what made them sick first. So these people who are transitioning to the keto carnivore diet, or, it's a diet, not a lifestyle, because it's not living, it's dead food. People who transition to this are experiencing a form of wellness for now because it's the processed foods that they're not eating, number one. Long term, though, not sustainable, they're going to get themselves into glycogen depletion because the body runs off of glycogen. It needs sugar. You got to have it. And so eventually, your kidneys are going to get backed up. Your liver is going to get backed up. You're going to have zero bowel movements, maybe one a week, and start reading all these Reddit pages as to how other people are sustaining this. And then you find out that Paul Saladino now calls himself Paul Saladino MD, not Carnivore MD. Why? Because it's not sustainable.
Right. Over years. There hasn't been any long studies on it, right?
Exactly. So yeah, you'll see people have success for a short amount of time, for sure. And that's great. Look, I want the human animal, the human mammal to be healthy as well, right? Part of veganism is wanting animals to live the lives that they want to live as well, because they don't just lay themselves down and say, hey, cut my neck and eat me, right? Vegans are passionate about that. I'm also passionate about the human living a good life too. And so I'm passionate about when humans live a good life on a keto carnivore lifestyle. I'm passionate about that for sure. But it would be so much better if they could experience that same lifestyle, right, without having to take life. Because the key to living is giving, not taking.
Yeah. What do you think about whey protein? A lot of guys are on that.
Yeah, whey protein is it's very gym bro mindset. It's very gym bro mindset. I think that we're much further along right now. I think that relying on the mammary secretions of another animal to build your muscles doesn't make any sense.
So what are you taking for protein?
Well, that's that, number one. Number two, it's not as digestible. So whey protein, the digestibility of it is about 50% digestibility. The rest of it is going to be waste. So this cow had to get number one to produce the milk. The baby male cows are gotten rid of or sold as veal, I believe it is. And the milk itself is giving you some form of protein, some form of amino acids, yes, but it's probably been pasteurized at that point. It's dead. It has no enzymes. And number three, the rest of it is waste. So you're getting some protein and some amino acids, yes, but what did you have to give for all of that? What did this cow have to give for all of that? Is all of that necessary? Whereas Mother Earth has a way where when we sow a seed and we care for that seed, we can reap a harvest. And so what I take actually for protein comes from Mother Earth, from amino acids. And these amino acids are all naturally occurring in non-soy legumes in this specific product called the master amino pattern, which are non-soy legumes, concentrated non-soy legumes, pre-digested, going straight to the muscles, the working muscle, in 23 minutes. Skipping your kidneys, liver, lymphatic system, digestive system, go straight to the working muscle.
Wow.
In 23 minutes. Absolutely incredible. You're skipping the need for dietary protein. And we should stop having diets. We should have lifestyles, because we don't need to be eating to die. We need to be eating to live.
Right. And that goes back to, you said living foods earlier. So
living foods.
You only eat foods that are quote unquote living.
You know, you want to be mainly having living foods. Look, we live in America. We live in this Western society. If sometimes you're stuck and that's just, you don't have, you know, some sauerkraut and sprout salad available to you, okay, you're going to be okay not having fully living foods on your meal. But having about 90 to 95% of the foods that you eat being living, meaning the enzymes are still alive, or it's fermented, or it's pickled, and it has probiotics and actual living bacteria within it to help you digest and assert those nutrients where they need to be throughout your body. Those are living foods. But to think that we're going to have dead foods that have no electricity in them at all, and that's going to be what charges this electrical body, because we're electrical first and physical, that doesn't make any sense. It's not congruent with reality. So
right.
Living foods for the living being, dead foods are going to produce a dead being. You'll see someone who is just glowing and they have an aura to them and they're just shining and they're radiant, right? Well, they're probably very, very hydrated. So they're probably having a lot of living foods, and you can see that through their skin. You can see that light. You can see that aura. Why? Because they're literally eating light. When the sun is emitting ultra-weak photon emissions, okay, those ultra-weak photon emissions, those UPEs, go into our food, and then our food turns those into minerals via photosynthesis, and then we then consume those minerals. We're consuming light. But if you cook that, you're cooking that light. That light is then dead. Or if you think that you're going to be eating light by eating a dead cow or a dead chicken or a dead pig, which are all GMO animals, by the way, not the original animal. You think it's bad eating GMO food, GMO crops, you're eating GMO animals.
That's crazy. So cows are not the original cows, you're saying?
No, this is not the original cow. The cow that we currently have right now, this is not the original cow.
What did they do to them?
It's just been very, very, very hybridized.
Wow.
Through multiple different types of bulls and tauruses and...
Well, they've done that to fruit too, though, right? With fruits with seeds in them. They removed all the seeds.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is why it's so important for us to be getting seeded fruit. You know, you want to be having alkaline-leaning fruit. But look, if you're having some pineapple, which, you know, the alkaline vegan community will reject, that's going to be better for you than eating some Takis or eating some chips. You know, you don't got to be a perfectionist, number one, with how you're eating. I love that we're in Virgo season right now. It's Virgo, and Virgos are often very, very, very much so perfectionist. They're the most analytical people of all the chart, because the mantra for Virgo is I analyze. And often Virgos can actually create their own irritable bowel syndrome because they're psyching themselves out.
Wow.
They're over analytical about what they think is good for them and not good for them. And so often you'll see Virgos actually with gut problems because Virgo itself rules the gut. Every single sign rules a certain part of the body, and our gut health is our Virgo health, essentially. Mercury is the messenger. Mercury is how you think and communicate. Well, Mercury's first home is in Virgo. It's domicile and exalted in Virgo. So essentially your gut. So when people say, oh, I went with my gut feeling, you were listening to Mercury. That's what really happened. Or if people say, I just have a lot of brain fog right now. Well, it's because your gut is backed up and you need a gut cleanse.
How often are you doing gut cleanses?
Annually, minimum, if not seasonally. Seasonally is what I encourage in this society because it's just so toxic between the air, food, and water. You know,
the air out here today is terrible.
It's crazy.
The wildfires.
It's crazy.
From Cali.
Yeah.
That reached all the way here. That's scary.
It's wild.
I literally walked out this morning and couldn't breathe.
Thank God we're inside.
Yeah, I think those cleanses are necessary, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done a few cleanses yourself.
I've
What
done
did you feel on them?
Felt incredible. I had brain fog. I used to wake up really groggy. None of that anymore.
None of it anymore. Awesome.
Yeah, because I used to eat a lot of sushi and fish and stuff. I pretty much cut most fish and seafood just because of the parasites.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, bro, since watching your show, I've seen your lifestyle change.
Oh, it has.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. It's a big testament to you and your moldability to.
Yeah, I got on some of the products you sent. You know, the Shilajit, the Purium.
Yeah.
There was the bee pollen, right?
Pine pollen.
Pine pollen, yeah. So my testosterone's gone up.
Nice.
And I know last time you came on the show, you said you were almost 1,000 testosterone.
Yeah.
Which for a vegan, that's like unheard of.
I'm grateful. Standing on the shoulders of giants with these superfoods.
Yeah, you're competing with the carnivores.
Sure, man. Sure. If they think it's a competition, to me, it's no competition.
Well, there's always that debate on social media, right? Vegans and carnivores.
I mean, if they want to, but I'm not playing that game. I'm playing the long game. And the long game is in alignment with reality. And reality is cyclical. And reality says you have to sow a seed to reap a harvest.
Right.
Whereas we only ever got into this keto carnivore mindset because we got out of alignment with time. You stop sowing the seeds at the right time, you're going to start playing catch up. It's the same thing as getting in debt. That's exactly what happened to humanity. Getting in debt financially is the same thing is very similar to what happened to humanity when it comes to us eating meat. We got out of alignment with the seasons. We got out of alignment with the stars. We stopped planting and harvesting at the correct time and storing at the correct time. And so, things like the gorilla experiment really show us how these things happened, how we ever started to consume meat. You ever heard of the gorilla experiment?
No.
It's fascinating. It's mind-blowing. These gorillas were given a little bit of blood on their fruit for 2 weeks, every single day for 2 weeks. And then eventually they started to reject their fruit and only desire meat.
Wow.
Of course, the same thing could happen to humans. Of course. And this is how you get humanity to move out of its heart chakra, move out of its crown chakra, and move into its root. And always be thinking with its carnal instincts, always be thinking from its reptilian mind, not the neocortex like we talked about last time. Whereas when you're thinking with your neocortex, you're making decisions for yourself. You're not rooted in fear all the time, or you got to run just because whatever, right? You're in your crown. And so you're able to process information and do what's best for you and best for everyone else, not based on what someone else is telling you that you have to do.
Yeah. So that being said, do you think ancient civilizations, do you think the Egyptians were vegetarian?
I believe that they were leaning vegetarian. I believe that there was definitely time frames and dynasties that they had flesh, for sure. And they definitely had writings of these things, right? We see hieroglyphics of them fishing, right? But this civilization was a civilization that was around for thousands and thousands of years. So these dynasties, they had different leaders. But often we hear of certain leaders as well who led plant-based lifestyles. And Imhotep was one of them. Imhotep was given a vision of the word is slipping my mind right now. There was going to be famine. Imhotep was given a vision of a famine for 7 years, and so he prepared and stored 7 years of food by sowing and reaping at the right time, right? And during that time frame, he could have just completely relied on fish or meat or whatever, right? But no, he stored food. And so the rest of the world had to go to Imhotep to get food. Well, this sounds very similar to the story of Joseph in the Bible. Why? Because they're probably the same person.
Interesting. Yeah, you've studied a lot of religious texts. You could kind of connect the dots on some of that stuff.
Yeah, it's syncretism.
Yeah. So do you think men need TRT?
No, absolutely not. I don't think men need TRT. I think that the mother is abundant. And just the same way as a mother's breast is going to nurture a new baby to give it everything that it needs to grow and to be, to become a child, right? The same way Mother Earth is going to do that for us if we take care of Mother Earth through things like pine pollen, which has naturally occurring testosterone in it, androgynous compounds, a full amino acid profile, through things like shilajit, the destroyer of all weakness, right? Naturally occurring fulvic and humic acid, also going to boost your testosterone. Things like sea moss, also going to boost your testosterone. These are mineral-rich, electric, alkaline superfoods that are naturally going to boost your testosterone. But you don't need to inoculate yourself with something synthetic that the body doesn't even know what it is or how to get rid of it.
Right.
It's a foreign entity, and it doesn't know how to distribute it or get rid of it properly. Whereas when pine pollen comes in, this is not a foreign entity. We are very much so like trees, and when we plug ourselves into these trees with something like pine pollen, with something like eating an apple, that's like plugging yourself into a tree. You're eating the information of that tree. You know, you're getting eating the apple. You're eating the fruiting body of all the wisdom that was in that tree for it to grow in that. The same thing is taking place with pine pollen. This is something that is natural, right? And natural nature are the Netarus, the ancient Egyptian Netarus.
Yeah.
The 42 Netarus, the 42 gods of Egypt. These are just the 42 laws of nature. So nature is God. And so God has everything nature has everything that we need to be thriving, very productive men. We don't need TRT. We don't need tren. We don't need anything synthetic. Nature has everything that we need.
I agree. Are you taking gold too?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Is it true gold can raise IQ?
Well, many think that gold is actually the manna from the Bible. And gold is really what will connect to hemispheres of your brain.
Wow.
And the pharaohs were the ones in Egypt actually who only had access to the gold, because it would just activate such a higher mind crown type of thinking. And these are, I'm not necessarily saying that I agreed with only pharaohs having this, right? Again, every dynasty was different. But absolutely, gold is absolutely incredible for you. It's naturally occurring in the body. Adding some is going to connect your mind like never before and open up this so that you're thinking for yourself like never before. And you can actually process information and retain it very well, contrary to just being told what to do.
Wow. I've tried it. I've taken gold and silver.
Awesome. What did you experience?
I liked it. I don't know if it was like a significant difference, but I definitely felt a little better, I'd say.
Awesome.
Definitely the shilajit you sent, though.
Yeah.
That worked for sure.
What did you notice on the shilajit?
Well, I had low T. I was at 520. Okay. I haven't measured it since, but I'd assume it's 700s, 800s. I feel way better. Just
you
overall.
feel it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, between that and the pine pollen, definitely helped.
Awesome, bro.
What else you take other than those things?
Yeah, so as far as the, most natural things that, when it comes to health, what we want to really be doing is we want to be consuming foods most in alignment with nature in the way that nature intended for them to be consumed, right? And again, listen from the perspective of me just now describing the 42 Netarus, right? These 42 gods as nature. So God intended us to consume foods in the way that they were grown, right? And so you want to be taking mineral, electric-rich superfoods and rely on your trichromatic vision that you were born with, which wants you to go and find apples, wants you to go and find bananas, wants you to go and find dragon fruit, wants you to go and find papaya. And every single time that you see a different color, your body is going to give you a different signal, a different gut feeling telling you, oh, you need this for this. This is the natural way. So I listen to my gut as far as what I take. Number one, I listen to my gut. And when it comes to, maintaining my energy levels and maintaining my productivity, I just realized that we live in one of the most toxic societies when it comes to our air, food, and water because of glyphosate, other pesticides, parasites, fluoride in the water, chemtrails in the air. I'm constantly trying to detox this thing so that this body is clear and things can flow through me, contrary to coming inside of here and getting backed up like a dam in a river.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Debate was last night, and you use astrology to actually predict elections, right? You read their charts, and I remember I texted you after the shooting, And you said that was within Trump's charts.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, that was the Mars and Uranus conjunction that took place right when the assassination attempt was going on. So many astrologers will refer to Donald Trump as the Uranian president. Here's why. He has the planet Uranus within a couple of degrees of his sun sign, his life force, his sun, his soul, S-O-L, right? And he was also born on a solar eclipse. And so Uranus, the planet Uranus, is just very much so attached to his life force, his sun. Likewise, so is Mars, because he has Mars in the first house. Often you'll see a lot of people who don't maybe relate with their horoscope, right? Because it's only talking about their sun sign. Well, they don't relate with their sun sign because they don't even think of themselves as their sun sign. They think of themselves as their first house, their rising sign, the sign that was rising above the horizon the moment that they were born. Well, Trump is a Leo rising. That means the sign of Leo was rising above the horizon the moment he was born. So was the planet Mars. So he's a very martial individual, and he comes across martial. He even looks a little orange and red, like Mars, right? Exactly. But you also see that blonde hair. That's that Leo rising, like the mane of the sun, right? And so you see that Mars is attached to his life force in his first house. Likewise, with Uranus attached to his life force. Well, Mars is a planet, is one of the malefic planets. Okay, so Saturn and Mars are what are known as the bad boys, right? Jupiter and Venus are good. They're the beneficial planets. Jupiter and Venus are benefic. Saturn and Mars are malefic. Well, Saturn and Mars typically are dealing with cutting and restriction. Saturn is restriction, cold, restriction. Mars is cutting. It'll just cut things off. It's martial. It's war. It's time to get things done. Well, Mars was passing Uranus, the planet Uranus, in Taurus, in a fall in Taurus. Mars is in a fall in Taurus. Likewise with Uranus there as well, both in a fall. And both of these planets are attached to Trump's life force. Well, here's the coup de grace. Here's why he didn't die. The great benefic is also right on top of his sun sign. Mars and Uranus were in Taurus, but the great benefic, Jupiter, Zeus, right, was right on top of his sun sign the moment that he was being shot. I'm sorry. Mars and Uranus were transiting Taurus, his MC, his public image, his career, whereas Jupiter was transiting his sun sign the moment he was born, and Jupiter is the planet of luck, finances, and expansion. Planet of luck, I said first. Planet of expansion. This is going to be a very expansive year for him. Honestly, in my opinion, because Jupiter is in his sun sign, I see him winning the election. Anytime you see Jupiter in someone's sun sign, it's going to be an expansive year for them. It's going to be a lucky year for them. It's going to be a good year for them. Jupiter rules in expansion. Jupiter's home is in Sagittarius and Pisces. These are both very jovial, optimistic, glass half full type people. You know, they're a little lucky. And they just naturally believe that they are.
Right.
And that's the case. And anybody with Jupiter transiting their sun sign, they're going to feel like that during that year as well. And so it was really the great benefic, Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion, that saved Trump's life that day, while Mars and Uranus, both being attached to his life force, were transiting his public image, his MC, his 10th house, his house of career. They were both transiting. But Jupiter kept him alive and will keep him alive. I don't see anything happening to Trump while Jupiter is in his sun sign. What happens after that? I can't say.
And is that a year? How long does the sun sign last?
It's going to be in his sun sign through the election, through May.
Through May, okay.
Yeah. And then it's going to go into Cancer, where it's exalted. And he has Cancer in the 12th house, and I think it's going to be a good year there as well. On top of that, Trump being the Uranian president, he's having his Uranus return as well. Uranus is going back into Gemini, electric air sign. I believe this is going to result in a whole lot of free energy type of technology coming out, or those types of things. You know, maybe not like literal free energy being released, but we did see Trump mention in his in a few of his rallies or a few of his videos in the beginning where he was like, we see China making ways on flying cars. We're going to make those moves as well. Well, that's absolutely Uranus and Gemini. Gemini is the sign of travel.
Right.
Uranus is going right back in there. Uranus is the planet of technology. So crypto, free energy, those types of things, a lot of that is going to be implemented the moment Uranus goes into Gemini next year. And so many of these things are just in alignment with Trump, to be honest. And I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I just read the heavens and I interpret the stars. And this is what the stars are saying.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're filming this before the election, but we'll see what happens when this episode drops.
Yeah, man.
You've also studied the moon.
Yeah.
So where are you at with the whole moon landing? Because there's been some people speaking out against it recently.
Well, we definitely didn't land on it.
You don't think we landed on the moon?
Definitely didn't land on the moon. No, for sure.
What makes you feel that way?
Because we haven't gone back. Why would we have gone then, but we haven't gone back now? We don't have the technology to go now, but we have the technology to do all the things that we're doing. That doesn't make any sense. Think for yourself. Realize that what was going on at that time frame was a race to the moon for really geopolitical power. That's really what that was. And it was essentially won, but it never happened. And when you really look into it, you start to see that just a lot of things are not adding up with the Apollo missions, with supposed astronauts that died on exploding missions that are still alive, and you see them like still teaching in schools and things like that with their same name.
Really?
Yeah.
So that one mission that exploded that they made a movie about, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Those guys survived?
Yeah. There's still some of those people. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. That's crazy, dude.
Look into it.
Wow. So what about aliens then?
Well, I mean, it's right there. A lie.
Yeah, Elon Musk said he doesn't believe in them.
Why are we trying to do space travel then, Elon?
Follow the money.
Bingo. Aliens. Now, the thing about aliens, you know, I'm not saying that we can't have different looking entities in this realm, or that ancient civilizations have never talked about that. I'm not saying that that hasn't happened. But via space travel, I don't see that happening. Now, a portal, that's an entirely different topic.
Right.
A Stargate, that's an entirely different topic.
And those are just dimensional traveling. That's not within our dimension, right?
Dimensional traveling. But it's within our dimension. Now, how do you open up that dimension? That's an entirely different topic.
Do you think it's possible to open those these days?
I think it happens, absolutely. And it's cosmologically, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you think it's like a specific procedure you follow, or do you think it's random, or how does it work?
I think a lot of it has to do with things like eclipses and conjunctions, and, you know, think of it like when you have two different magnifying glasses on top of one another, right? It's a little bit like that. And that's what these heavenly bodies are. They're portals. Not something that we can go land on. You can't go land on the moon. You can't go land on the sun. You can't go land on Jupiter and Saturn. These are portals.
So what about the Mars rovers?
That's happening in Iceland.
That's crazy.
Or Greenland.
Because they sent those off a while ago, too.
Or Arizona.
I remember as a kid, you know, watching those and getting excited.
Yeah. Easy to get excited. And, you know, you're an Aquarius and you got all this air sign stuff, and, you know, space travel, growing up to me, I'm an Aquarius rising. It was exciting to me as well, and I could relate with it too. But the more I started to look into it, it just didn't make sense. And what did make sense was astrology and charting the heavens and knowing God's clock. That's what really did make sense.
Have you ever seen astrology be proven wrong?
No.
Wow.
No, you would have to maybe if the chart isn't being read correctly.
Because it depends on the birth time, so you need to be accurate, right?
Need to be accurate.
And the location.
Yeah. The thing is there's multiple different systems in astrology, right? The Vedic system is actually tracking the stars, the literal constellations. That's the Vedic system. Okay? That's why the Vedic system is always a sign behind the tropical system. In Vedic astrology, you're probably a Capricorn. Whereas in tropical astrology, you're obviously an Aquarius. Well, it's much more fitting that you're an Aquarius because look at this thing. You run a podcast and you have like 5 planets in Aquarius too. Electric, air, and you're in the 8th house dealing with other people's possessions and skills and trade. So of course, your trade is all about talking about other people's trades. Well, you can only track that inside tropical astrology, seeing 5 planets in the 8th house in Aquarius with a Cancer rising and Aries in the midheaven and Saturn in the midheaven. Of course, you're going to see that in tropical astrology, but in Vedic astrology, you're not going to see that. In Vedic astrology, it's going to be a sign behind, and things aren't going to make sense. See, you're scratching your head right now because it's like the things aren't going to make sense. Whereas tropical astrology is perfect and never changing because it's based on the sun's path. And the sun's path divided into 360 degrees, and each sign gets 30 degrees. That's why earthworks all over the world that are based on equinoxes always show up right on time. These equinoxes and these earthworks are always aligned right on time. Why? Because the sun's path never changes. That's the difference between tropical and Vedic astrology.
Got it.
Every single spring equinox, you can watch the sun rise above the horizon. If you're standing on top of the Sphinx, you'll see the sun rise above the horizon right in front of you at spring equinox. Every single spring equinox. Every single spring equinox, the pyramid of Kukulkan will create a dragon going down the side of it with a shadow as the sun is creating that shadow, symbolizing Quetzalcoatl descending from the heavens or Kukulkan descending from the heavens to serve humanity.
Wow.
And this is based on the sun's path because the sun's path is perfect. The sun doesn't change. The sun's path does not change. The moon changes, Saturn changes, Venus changes. Everything else up there changes. Retrograde, the sun is always consistent, never goes retrograde, never goes backwards, and never changes. Everything else up there changes. We're born into this realm through the moon. We leave through the sun.
Interesting.
This is why it's said, it is written, no one comes to the Father but through me, by the metaphorical Son of God.
Yeah.
Because these are portals, not something you go land on.
Wow. That's cool. Was this astrology mentioned in the Bible when you were studying the text?
Absolutely. Job 38:32. Canst thou call henceforth the Mazzaroth? Mazzaroth, translated in the Hebrew, means zodiac. But it was kept in the word Mazzaroth, which is a Hebrew word, in the English Bible, so that Christians wouldn't look it up and find zodiac in their Bible, then start studying astrology.
So it was done intentionally.
That was done intentionally because if Christians knew that the zodiac was in the Bible, they'd start studying astrology and they wouldn't just listen to their pastor.
Right. I remember growing up, people really looked down on astrology, you know,
Why is that?
religion, right?
Exactly.
A lot of Christians were in my area where I was growing up, so
Yeah.
I was exposed to that.
Little do they know that the Lion of Judah is Leo. The Virgin Lamb is Aries.
Wow.
Little do they know.
That's crazy because there is a divide still with astrology and Christianity.
Yeah, but really, Christianity is the science of light. That's what Christianity really is. So I have to thank these Christians. I thank these Christians because that's what the cross is. The cross is really the perfect path of the solstices and equinoxes taking place on the cross of the solstices and equinoxes. Horizontally, right? That's the spring equinox and the autumnal equinox. Summer solstice, winter solstice. This is the sun's path, dying on the cross. The Son of God, the light of the world, dying and resurrecting in 3 days. Every single solstice and equinox. Every single one.
Interesting.
So this is that metaphor being explained to us in that Bible and being told to us in that Bible for control, really, is what it's for control. Whereas if you have people like the 3 wise men who were only able to find that Star of Bethlehem, which is a Venus and Jupiter conjunction, by the way, when Venus and Jupiter essentially eclipse one another, that was only found because these 3 wise men knew astrology. They knew the Mazzaroth. They knew God's clock, like we should. And when we don't have so much light pollution like we do in this society, we would study it. and learn it and know it and realize, wow, there's so much that I can relate with going on up there, but I'm living it and embodying it right here.
How damaging do you think the light pollution is right now?
Way too damaging. Everyone needs blue blockers. Shout out to Raw Optics, by the way. Get your blue blockers from Raw Optics. Guys, the blue light is really throwing off your hormones. It's really throwing off your secretions. It's really throwing off your melatonin. It's really throwing off your mood. It's just throwing off a whole lot. And you want to get rid of the fake, unnatural light. Again, we want to be living life as natural as possible, right? This fake, unnatural blue light, it's cool. I'm okay with it during the day, but at night, you want to be having blue blockers on. It's throwing off your hormones. It's really messing up your circadian rhythm. It's messing up how everything functions going on inside. Get yourself some blue blockers from Raw Optics. Start blocking fake blue light. Get outside, do breath work during the day. You'll realize that the real blue light that you're bringing into you is just much brighter after doing that breath work. You'll have so much more oxygen going to your brain. And, you know, this, again, these lights are they're unplugging us from the heavens. Whereas when you're getting real red light, you're seeing the sun. You're getting real blue light, you're seeing the stars. So you want to be unplugging from the unnatural as much as possible, the unnatural processed foods, the unnatural blue light. Go back into natural foods and natural light.
Yeah. The lighting in the foods are probably causing this mental health epidemic right now.
So much of it. It's lighting, food, water, thoughts, radiation, clothing, what you're wearing.
Yeah, we're getting attacked from so many angles. People can't even keep up because once they fix one angle, there's 4 other angles they're being attacked from.
The best thing that you want to do, though, is be calm. And again, not psych yourself out. Don't give yourself ulcers, Virgo. You can create ulcers just by being too worried all the time.
Damn.
Stress kills. So you don't want to be doing that. Work with what you have. Work with what you can afford. Work with what you have available. But do everything that you can. Because all that you can do is all that you can do, and all that you can do is enough. But not all that you can do. That's not enough. And the universe will show you that by delivering some sickness if you don't do all that you can do.
Damn.
Until you do.
Yeah. How can people start on their health transformation?
Honestly, I recommend the Ultimate Lifestyle Transformation. You're in the United States, Europe, Canada, I recommend the Ultimate Lifestyle Transformation. It's the best all-in-one cleanse, cleansing pesticides, parasites, going to add pre-digested vegan protein, 2 raw all-organic meal replacements per day, give you naturally occurring melatonin in the apothecary at night, just to get the body back into its natural circadian rhythm and natural electricity. Again, natural, neteru, nature, right? Getting back into your divine form, because we are divine. Every single person is divine, and to think that you're not divine is incorrect. But you feel that divinity again when you feel your own electricity again, because God is electric. God is electrical. And when you feel your electricity again by having living foods again, by investing into yourself and having living foods again, and realizing that you have to vote with your dollar first before you ever vote on a piece of paper. Okay, before you ever vote on a piece of paper, just deciding who else is going to be in charge of your health and finances, take control of that yourself first. Invest in a transformation. Start eating raw foods. Take some pine pollen. Take some shilajit. Take some sea moss. Do something healthy for yourself. Do something generative for yourself instead of being so degenerative all the time and always having to play catch up.
Yeah.
This compound effect is going to start to really build upon itself once you invest into yourself a little bit and realize that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And you have to sow a seed to ever reap a harvest. But if you just sit on your seed and you never sow that seed because you're afraid of losing your seed, or you're afraid of what other people are going to think about your seed if it does grow, you're going to have what you had given to you, that one gift given to you, taken from you.
Yeah.
You want to sow a seed? Have faith. Believe a little bit in the unseen. Realize that if your way is not working, maybe you don't have it all figured out right now. That's okay. But someone else's way is, and they're giving you some steps on what to take. follow them, say what they say, do what they do, and eventually you'll get what they have. And so, the ultimate lifestyle transformation is what I recommend for people if they're in the United States, Canada, and Europe. Start where you can, wherever you are, but eat living foods and live in terms of the way that nature wanted you to, not a synthetic way.
Yeah, we'll link all that below. Let's end off with a fun question here.
Let's do it.
You mentioned God and votes. Is God liberal or Republican?
That's funny. Well, it's perfect with what I just said because, God doesn't want to give you something for nothing. God wants you to sow a seed and reap a harvest. So in my mind, God is more Republican than liberal in my mind.
I love it.
Because God wants you to take control over your own life. That parable of the talents. Anyone who is confused on whether or not God is a liberal or a Republican, think about that parable of the talents. The man who had the 1 talent but did nothing with his talents because he was scared, and then he had his talents taken from him and given to someone else. That shows you that if you don't use it, you lose it. And you were given a gift here in this world, and you were meant to use it. And when you use it, it's going to grow more and thrive more, like the guy who had his talents given to, because he had 5, and he turned those 5 talents into 10. And so God knew, oh, wait, this is a good son. I'm going to give this son more talents because he's fruitful. And he can multiply his talents, contrary to just being a parasite and asking me for things all the time.
Right. No one likes those people.
No one likes those people. And these people are filled with parasites too, and they don't even know it. So they should do a parasite cleanse, and then they will start to maybe feel like they want to add value to people, contrary to taking from people all the time. So if you feel like the liberal way is the way, and you just think that you need to be given everything in your life, I challenge you to do a parasite cleanse and see how you feel after that.
Wow, I didn't even connect those dots, but that would make sense.
See if you feel so parasitic afterwards. Because currently, you have parasites running your mind and your body and your soul, which has turned you into having some parasitic habits.
Right.
Okay? These people aren't bad people. I'm not saying that every liberal is a parasitic person. Okay, they're definitely not. These are amazing people. And they all want good for other people as well, right? Everyone wants good for another person, but what's at our root? A lot of these people who are very giving, it's because they themselves are not full of parasites, and so they don't feel like they need to take from everyone because everything is being taken from them inside.
Makes sense.
Because they're clear inside, things are allowed to flow to them and through them to other people.
Absolutely. Isaac, it's been a blast, man. We'll link your stuff below. All the links. Thanks for coming on, as always.
Appreciate you,
We'll have to do a part 3 one day. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.